I remember well the day I decided that my life would change. It was a cold afternoon, and I was sitting in my kitchen, with my son sleeping on the sofa after yet another sleepless night. The thought that haunted me was the same: how could I ensure that he had everything he needed, without having to divide myself between him and work? I didn't just want to survive, I wanted more for us. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I knew that if I had a purpose, I would have the strength necessary to make it work. That's when the idea came to me, simply, but so strongly that I couldn't ignore it. Cake. I had always received compliments when I made cakes for my son's birthday parties, and I thought, why not turn this into something big? So, I started with a small menu, selling to friends and neighbors. In the beginning, it was just a few coins here and there, but soon I saw the happiness on people's faces as they savored what I made with so much love. However, it wasn't easy. I woke up early to prepare the batters and fillings while my son was still asleep. During the day, I ran between deliveries, and at night, I stayed awake, dreaming about what could happen. But persistence paid off. When the first customer told me she had taken my cake to a party and that everyone loved it, I felt I was on the right path. The business grew, and with it, difficulties appeared. I knew nothing about business management, but I learned every step of the way, facing fear, insecurity, and sometimes loneliness. My son was my greatest support, always smiling, always telling me he knew I could do it. And so, one cake at a time, I managed to expand. I started opening small stores and eventually a franchise network. Now, looking back, I see how every challenge strengthened me. I am not just a single mother who started selling cakes. I am someone who built, with her own hands, a life of opportunities for myself and my son. Today, I look at him and see a young man, full of hope, who never doubted that everything was possible. And I can say with certainty, he was the greatest reason for all of this. What did I learn? That, even in the greatest difficulties, we must never give up on our dreams. I am living proof that, with courage, determination, and lots of love, we can create something great. The journey is not easy, but it is through it that we find ourselves. My story begins at a moment of doubt. I was alone, with my young son by my side, and a world that seemed to pressure me with every step. As a single mother, the burden was immense. Every day was a battle between trying to be a good mother and being able to provide for both of us. Life always seemed to test me, placing obstacles in my path, but when I looked at my son, something inside me always said, "You can't stop now." I didn't have much, but I had something I could share, my passion for cooking. That feeling that, somehow, a simple cake could bring joy to someone's life was what motivated me. I started selling cakes to the neighbors, and gradually, I found myself selling to more people. The profits weren't big, but each order gave me a little more hope. And when I saw the happiness in the customers' eyes, I felt I was doing more than just selling something. I was offering a little piece of happiness. The beginning was challenging, I won't lie. I woke up before dawn to prepare everything alone. Sometimes, when my son fell asleep, I stayed awake, dreaming of a future where he wouldn't have to worry about anything. I thought, if I keep going like this, one day this will work. But difficulties didn't take long to appear. I knew almost nothing about how to manage a business, and soon reality slapped me in the face. The bills started piling up, exhaustion consumed me, and uncertainty surrounded me at every step. I felt like I was failing, but then my son, with his eyes full of faith, reminded me every day that we couldn't give up. He believed in me, and that gave me strength. There was one particularly difficult night. The debts were knocking at the door, the work didn't seem to be enough, and I found myself questioning if any of this had a future. But it was that night that I received an unexpected message. A client who had tried my cakes at an event wrote to me. She didn't know it, but at that moment, she gave me the answer to everything. She believed in me. She told me she wanted to invest in my business, believing that I had what it took for something bigger. At first, I thought it was a dream, too good to be true. But, for some reason, I decided to take a chance. I accepted her help, but it wasn't easy. I found myself again in a world I didn't know: management, franchises, contracts. Everything seemed so big and far from what I had imagined. But, as always, my son was there, reminding me that he trusted me and that our effort would not be in vain. And little by little, I started learning. Each store I opened, each new franchise, each new cake that came out of my kitchen with my special touch, showed me I was on the right path. Today, looking at everything we've achieved, I feel grateful. It's not just about the cakes or the success of the business. It's about the lesson I've learned. That true strength doesn't lie in never falling, but in getting up every time life knocks us down. And that the greatest legacy we can leave for our children is showing them the power of persistence, courage, and hope. What I want people to know is that no matter how difficult the journey seems, there's always something inside us that pushes us to keep going. I am living proof that, even on the darkest nights, the light of a dream never goes out, as long as you have the courage to fight for it. Over time, things started to happen in a way I never imagined. The franchises spread, and although I now had a team, controlling everything still seemed like a constant challenge. Every day brought something new, a new lesson, a new obstacle. But the feeling that all of it had been built with sweat and tears was the greatest reward. Looking at the stores and seeing people there, savoring my cakes, made me feel that, somehow, I had found my purpose. But there was something that still consumed me. Even though I was at the top of a growing business, the truth is that I still carried the weight of responsibility. My son was no longer that little boy who woke up at dawn to see the cake coming out of the oven. He was growing, and the pressure to be a good mother, even amidst success, never disappeared. I wondered if he still saw me as the strong, fearless woman I used to be, or if he missed the present mother, the one who, above all, was just his mother. It was in one of those moments of reflection that he, now a teenager, came to me. He hugged me and said, "Mom, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be my mom." His words hit me in a way I didn't expect. I had been so focused on success, so worried about giving him what I never had, that I had forgotten what really mattered: our time together, the support I could offer him genuinely, without rushing, without the pressure of always reaching the next step. It was in that moment that I understood that, as important as my business was, the relationship I had built with him, the trust and love that had always been our foundation, were what truly defined success. And then, I decided to take a break. Not to give up, but to understand that true balance was in being both a mother and a businesswoman at the same time, without losing sight of what truly mattered. I started taking more days off, being more present in his victories and even in his defeats. And he, in turn, began to realize that, even with the success of my company, what I wanted most was to see him happy, fulfilled, and healthy. From there, we managed to find a new rhythm. He began to get more involved in the business as well, and together, we found ways to grow without losing what really mattered to both of us. Today, our story continues to be written. The franchise network continues to grow, but the real transformation happened within us. We learned that success isn't just about numbers and material achievements. Success is about the journey we go through, the values we carry, and, most importantly, the way we love and support the people around us. I am an entrepreneurial mother, but above all, I am his mother. And that's what makes it all worthwhile. Over time, things began to fall into place in a way that felt magical. But, in reality, it was all the result of many difficult decisions, sleepless nights, and lessons learned with each step. The company continued to grow, the franchises expanded, and at the same time, my relationship with my son, which had previously been neglected due to my obsession with work, was blooming again. What I didn't know was that the break I had taken in my own path allowed space for his growth too. He started to get more involved in the business, bringing new ideas, suggesting improvements. I was impressed with the way he thought and how mature he was for his age. I never imagined that one day he would become such an important part of what we had built together. Not only as my emotional support, but as a partner in the journey. Every now and then, he would surprise me with a simple gesture. "Mom, you've done all of this on your own so far, but now it's our turn. Let's do this together. That's when the true meaning of what I had achieved revealed itself. Success wasn't just about having built something grand, it was about the legacy I was leaving for my son. I was teaching him that, no matter how hard life got, what really mattered was the courage to keep going, to believe in yourself and in the people around you. Because the greatest power I had was never the power over business or sales. It was the power to influence someone to never give up on their dreams. We started to work more together, making decisions together, building together. And everything felt more right, more balanced. My vision of success was no longer the same as before. I realized that true success was in seeing my son grow, in walking alongside him in his own journey, whether in business or life. I remember a specific moment when we were together at the end of a tiring day, and he said to me, "Mom, sometimes you remind me of the woman who started back then, with a dream and a huge will to make things happen. I just want you to know that, in the end, this legacy will be mine too." I didn't know what to say. That was more than any award or recognition I could have achieved in the business world. It was the result of years of effort, love, and dedication. It was the reflection of everything I had always wanted for him, to believe in himself, to be brave, to not be afraid to take risks. And then, I knew that the journey didn't have an end. It continued every day. No matter how far I went, the most important thing was knowing that, by my side, there would always be someone who would walk with me to the end. He was my greatest treasure. And I, the greatest teacher he could have. I look back and see how much has changed, how much we have grown together. It all started with that simple desire to make cakes, to create something that would bring joy to people, and suddenly, I was leading a franchise network that provided work for dozens of people. But deep down, I knew that the greatest gift life had given me wasn't success, recognition, or money. The greatest gift was the transformation that happened inside me. Many times, I asked myself, am I good enough? I had so many doubts, so many insecurities. Every step seemed like a battle against the fear of not making it, of failing. But over time, I began to understand that failures weren't the end, but just a part of the process. Every mistake taught me something valuable. Every door that closed showed me that, somehow, others would open, and that sometimes, failure was the beginning of a new opportunity. I always told my son that life wasn't easy, but that he should never be afraid to try, even knowing he might fall. And today, seeing how he's grown and how he's become such an intelligent, responsible, and reliable young man, I know he understood the message. He's learning to be strong not because he has no fears, but because he has the courage to face them. And that, to me, is the greatest reward. There are moments, of course, when I still feel insecure. It's impossible to avoid. Life is full of ups and downs. But one thing I've learned along this journey is that true strength doesn't lie in never falling, but in knowing how to get up, even when the desire is to give up. Sometimes, all we need is a pause, a breath, so that we can reconnect with what really matters. I remember one day, when the pressure of so many responsibilities seemed to consume me, my son said something simple, but it stayed with me forever. He said, "Mom, you have to trust that you've done enough. That no matter what happens, you're a winner. Because you didn't give up." And that's already the greatest victory of all. Sometimes, it's so easy to get lost in the rush of daily life, trying to do everything at once and forgetting to stop and appreciate the journey. Today, I've learned to value the small moments, the little victories that, in the end, are the ones that really make a difference. It doesn't matter how many cakes you sell, how many stores you open, or how many dreams you realize. What really matters is what you build with others, how you touch the lives of the people around you, how you share your love and struggles. That's what really leaves a mark. And looking at everything we've built, what I'm most proud of isn't the franchise network, but the example I'm setting for my son. Life won't always be easy, but there will always be a way to move forward. And, as long as I can, I'll be by his side, guiding him, supporting him, because in the end, that's what life really means, being together, learning, and growing with each step. But not everything was easy. There were moments when the weight of the world seemed to be on my shoulders. And as much as I wanted to be strong, there were days when I would lock myself in my room and cry. I cried out of fear of failing, out of exhaustion from carrying everything on my own, and out of longing for support that I knew I wouldn't have. I was a mother, a businesswoman, a housewife, and sometimes, I felt like I didn't have the strength to be all of that at once. There was one night in particular that I will never forget. I was trying to close the accounts for the month, but the money just wasn't enough to pay the suppliers and the household bills. I looked at my son, who was peacefully sleeping on the living room couch, and an overwhelming sense of failure took over me. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands shaking, and began writing a letter of resignation. I thought I had reached my limit. But at that exact moment, he woke up. It was as if something had pulled him back into the world, as if he knew I was about to collapse. He came over to me, rubbing his eyes, and asked, Mom, are you okay? I took a deep breath, trying to hide it, but he was too smart to believe me. He sat next to me, took my hand, and said, I know you're tired. But you're the strongest person I know. You're not alone, Mom. I'm here with you. Those words took me by surprise. It was as if, suddenly, all the weight I carried had been halved. My son, only 11 years old, reminded me that even when I felt alone, I had him. And he believed in me. It was at that moment that I realized that, no matter how hard the challenges were, I had something that money could never buy, my son's unconditional love. The next day, I returned to the kitchen with renewed energy. I created a new cake flavor, something simple but full of affection and nostalgia. I called it Cake of Hope. It was made with simple ingredients, but each bite carried a message, that things can always get better, that giving up is never the only option. I took the cake to a local fair, and to my surprise, it was an immediate success. People weren't just buying the cake, they were buying the story behind it. They wanted to know who the mother was who, despite all the difficulties, kept on dreaming. That changed everything. The Cake of Hope became a symbol, a turning point in my life and my business. It reminded me of something essential. No matter how difficult the path, there is always something inside us that can push us forward. And sometimes, all we need is a hand holding ours, reminding us that we are not alone. Today, when I look back, I realize that every tear, every sleepless night, every fear faced was worth it. Because, in the end, it wasn't about the cake, the money, or the franchises. It was about showing my son, and myself, that love and perseverance can transform any difficulty into a victory. Just as this story showed that a small step can transform lives, the next step is now with you. Subscribe to the channel and join a community where inspiring stories not only touch the heart, but also motivate you to transform your own reality. Let's grow together, because here, every like, every comment, and every subscription are like the ingredients of a perfect cake, essential to create something amazing. Click the subscribe button and be part of this journey today.